All right, everyone. Good afternoon. It is 4:46 and we are streaming. So,
All right, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I call this meeting to order. It is 4:47 p.m. on Thursday, September 19th. And we will take a roll call. It has been requested by one of our members that as we do our roll call, we do a brief introduction of ourselves. So as I call your name, will you please explain your role with the Go team in your relationship to the school, please? And I will check myself in as here, Shalonda Miller. I am the parent of two students at Howard, a 7th grader and an 8th grader, and I am the elected chair for this year. And Mr. Brooks.
Hello, I am Doug Brooks. I am a parent of a current 8th grader at Howard Middle School and an 11th grader at Midtown High School, and have been an APS parent for, I don't know, 13 years.
Principal Hollis.
President, since you said my title and affiliation, I don't think I have to say more. Thank you.
Ms. Eldery.
I'm Dion Malik. I hold Dion Malik Eldery. I hold one of the parent seats. This is my first year on Go team. I have 3 children. We have lived in the Morningside community for the last 12 years. My children all attended Morningside from kindergarten on. They are now in grades 6, 8, and 10. So I have 2 at Howard and 1 at Midtown. And I am a speech pathologist by trade, a PhD speech pathologist by trade.
Dr. Bryant. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Bryant. I am a teacher here at David T. Howard Middle School. I have been in the Midtown cluster for 20 years. I've been with Atlanta Public Schools for a while. I teach French here at the middle school.
Ms. Nolan.
Yes.
Ms. Nolan, if you will introduce yourself and your role on the Go team and your relationship to the school.
I'm sorry, I'm Miss Nolan. I'm a 7th grade ELA teacher. I am a staff member on the Go team.
Thank you. Ms. Moore.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Moore. I am the master teacher leader at David T. Howard. This is my 2nd year in the Midtown cluster, my 14th year in education. I have a 6th grader at Howard. I have 2 kids at Drew Charter. I'm the vice chair.
And I do not see Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker, if you are present, please let me know. And Mr. Anglin.
I'm Mr. Anglin, 6th grade social studies. This is my 4th year at Howard. My family's been going to Grady before it was Grady. Or Midtown before it was Grady before that.
We knew what you meant.
Sorry, the 1920s, getting a little fuzzy.
All right, we have a quorum and we are ready to proceed with business. First order is approval of the agenda. Everyone should have received a copy of the agenda as well as it has been posted online. Are there any amendments?
I think according to the Go team, we need to propose to amend the agenda to the one that was updated yesterday, the day before Principal Hollis sent, because we gave a different one to the Go team members 7 days ago. So I think we need to just reconfirm which one we're looking at. And I believe the meeting notice and the agenda are different, also have a different agendas. So do we just want to drop the correct agenda and adopt that one? Motion to adopt that one?
What was the amendment?
So, after looking at the agenda for today, I amended the meeting notice agenda. I did not amend the meeting agenda as it was not communicated within the 7-day notice, as noted by Ms. Eldery. But the changes, it changes some, well, the uniform policy is moved from a discussion item, or the order in which something, like, to an action item, because it is an action item. Then the,
Hey, this is Chandra from the Go Team office.
yes, thank you.
You guys can just share the, I guess, the newest version of the agenda if you want to share it on the screen. And
then we can motion to adopt it.
and you guys can vote on that one. Yep.
Yep. Principal Hollis, do you have what you would like to amend the agenda to? And then we can
I am
motion to
trying
vote.
to get it on the screen as we speak.
Okay.
I see it now, Principal Hollis.
You do?
I see the meeting notice. I don't know if I can share my screen.
You should be, because I made you a co-host.
When I say I don't know if I can share my screen, I mean.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
If I have the
working on the sharing capabilities, give me a second.
Here we go. I think this is, see. Did that work?
Yes.
Oh, look at me. And so it looks that like what happened, the differences are Go Team vacancy was moved up to an action item and an additional discussion item was added to discuss the uniform policy update. Is that correct?
The order of the communication protocol changed and went up higher, and math status was added from the one that the Go Team members got 7 days ago.
Okay, awesome. I will take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended and with those changes. Anyone? A motion? I need a motion and a second.
I move that we adopt. Oh,
I second.
Okay, is that Miss Moore, Miss Moore and Miss Nolan?
Yes. No.
All right.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
If you can raise your hands when we take a vote so we can just see and make note of that on camera. Okay, and who is in the center here? Ms. Patel, I don't think you can vote.
Not yet.
If you are planning, I don't.
So just don't count hers. Are we good? Any opposed? All right, hearing no opposition, the agenda is adopted as amended. I'm gonna stop sharing if I can figure out how to do that. Anybody know how to stop sharing? I'll share. How about that? Stop sharing. So now I can see everybody again. And the next item is to approve the previous meeting minutes, which were from our August 20th meeting. I will take a motion in a second.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
I'll second.
And who was that? Mr.
Mr.
Anglin?
Anglin.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. And now we will discuss the Go Team vacancy. We talked about it at our last meeting. And I believe Principal Hollis has a nomination for us to consider.
Yes, Dr. Patel is.
Could I interject? Do we have anybody to sign up for public comment? At the beginning, we have public comment first.
Yes, but because we have adopted the amended agenda, this has been moved to the next thing.
Okay, could someone drop that? Because sorry, I'm looking at the one that's online and I guess that's a different order. Can we drop that
Look
link?
look at the meeting notice online. Because it's not on the agenda, it's on the meeting notice. Sorry. Can you see it?
I'm gonna drop it in the chat and find it for everyone. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry.
All right, the Go Team vacancy, you'll remember we discussed it at our last meeting. Principal Hollis, you have someone for our consideration?
Yes, thank you for that. Dr. Patel, she is a educator. She is a community member. She has a child at one of the elementary schools. I want to say she owns some educational facilities, and she can go into further detail, but this is my community member seat that I would like to fill that we discussed last meeting. Do you want to introduce yourself, Dr. Patel?
Sure. Hey guys. So my name's Hina and I do have education background. I've been in education for almost 20 years. I did my bachelor's, master's, and my doctorate, all in early childhood education and then educational leadership at the University of Georgia. I actually taught in Gwinnett County public schools for 10 years, was an assistant principal, all of that towards the end, then did a year at Woodward Academy, where I was pregnant with our first child and built a preschool for her. So I own a Goddard school, and we're actually in the process of building a second one. The first one is almost 7 years old, and hopefully the second one will be up and running in the next year, year and a half or so. But I have 2 children at Virginia Highland Elementary, where we love Mr. Harness and connected me to Ms. Hollis.
Thank you. All right, I will take a motion to approve Dr. Patel as our community representative on the Go Team.
I motion to have her the community member.
I second.
All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Oh, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Now you can vote.
Okay.
All right, and now we are ready for public comment. Principal Hollis, did we have anyone sign up for public comment?
We had Allison G to sign up.
Okay.
But it did not have any comments specifically. She said she would like to speak. That was the only public comment that I saw.
All right. Is she here? Do we need to send her a link? How does that work?
She's been waiting in the waiting room. Miss Sabia's needs to let her in, I believe. I got a screenshot from Allison asking if somebody could let her in.
I'm looking at the waiting room right now. No one's in the waiting room.
So she may have clicked the link by the date, but at the top it says click to join virtually. There are 2 different Zooms. So just direct her to the other Zoom. I was hanging out in Mississippi as well for a while.
Where would you like her to go? I'm sorry, does somebody want to drop the link?
Give me 1 second.
My apologies.
No need to apologize. Is it the same link we used? Principal Hollis, is it the same link?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I texted her, but if somebody else wants to reach out to her.
I'm going to email it to her as well.
I'll give her a second if she responds here.
Oh, there we go. Somebody's trying to get it. There she is. Hello.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was sitting in the other Zoom, like the one that was next to the website that says, so I didn't know there was a second one.
Don't worry.
And I'm so sorry to hold up the Go Team meeting.
You
Like,
did not.
I,
We are a captive audience. You will have 2 minutes to give your public comment, and we appreciate your coming.
Okay. My name is Allison Ginavola. I have twin 7th graders at Howard. I'm currently serving my 2nd year as PTO president. I wrote out this very formal letter, but I just really want to speak from my heart, and cut me off when I timed this out, but I just want to speak from my heart. I had originally emailed everyone about an advisory team for Go Team for math. And because there was a lot of things happening in the community, with instruction and with assessments, the district tests. And I think that originally when it came out, it was because that math was the one thing that was getting tested on, that people were seeing their kids really struggling. But since that, and since I've emailed you guys, I've gotten more comments from parents, and I'm just hearing frustrations from the community about the district test and curriculum. And there's just a lot of confusion that I think could be addressed with a communications committee or an advisory committee, or somewhere where there's an organization such as the Go Team that was appointed and elected to gather information in a safe space where people could talk. I don't talk to teachers, so I don't know how teachers are feeling. I'm just hearing from my students and from parents. So I just wanted to, I know it's one thing for people to say snarky comments and to complain about things, but I wanted to show up and make and say personally, like, this is how I'm feeling, and ask you to consider a committee, whether it's for math specifically or for all of the core subjects. And I wanted to make a public comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and we did receive your email, and we appreciate your feedback. And we're going to kick you out now.
Okay.
You're on mute, Miller.
Because of course I was. Next on our agenda is the discussion item uniform policy update.
Do you have the comments that you're supposed to make?
If
Click on the link, I added a link, which was the Go Team meeting link.
I did see it, but I thought that was only if we wanted a uniform policy. So
we
I
still
was
have to have a discussion. We have to discuss
it either way.
So essentially, I moved it up for us to make an action item about it. We do not currently have a uniform policy at the school. And this is something that is going out for all schools. So I figured we could just make a motion to say that we want to continue things as is with no uniform, unless someone wants to have a discussion about adding a uniform.
I move that I need to not have a uniform.
Yeah, and I think the reason why it came up and it's hitting all Go Teams is because the policy changed, and so that's why this is a formality for us to do.
We have to vote, and
so we have to.
Right. So we got to stick to the way that the meeting is supposed to run, or we're gonna run out of time.
Right. So I was just explaining why, because the officers were the only ones who got the information.
1 second, Ms.
So I motion to.
Okay. I motioned. Do you want to second the motion? So just for policy procedures perspective, motion, second, then discussion, then a vote. So I motioned. Is there a second? All right. Dr. Patel seconds the motion not to have a uniform. Any discussion with regard to the uniform policy? Ms. Aldery, this is when it would be, we jump in with the extra information so that people have it and understand why it was placed on the agenda, if you want. Hearing no discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of not having a uniform policy. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries, and we will move on to the next item, which is the school strategic plan. Everyone, I'm sorry, I have not eaten all day, so I'm like trying to, in between talk, take bites. The strategic plan is out on the Go Team website. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review that. If not, it is the basis of the work that we do. It will guide what we do over the course of the year. We might make some adjustments as different priorities are brought to our attention, especially based on the data that we get back. Principal Hollis, is there anything in particular that you wanted to discuss about the strategic plan today?
No, there is not. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm having technical difficulties. I was trying to use two screens, but it will not allow me since I normally am not using the screen. So I want to make sure that everyone can see it. Is it visible for everyone? Yes,
That's
okay.
good. Thank you.
So no, we don't have anything to add. I do know that these are not our SIP goals for this year. And as you can see, the SMART goals they ended with last school year. So we probably do want to have some discussion around updating these SMART goals definitely before we get to the budget cycle. I do know that according to the agenda for today, we are to actually go over the priorities to ensure that this is still the list of priorities that we want. But I think that we probably want to move to maybe propose the next meeting to adjust the SMART goals to be reflective of where we are currently in the school year or the year's progressions.
I will add that as an action item for our next agenda for us to discuss the SMART goals and moving those around. And if anybody has any inputs on those, please share them prior to the meeting.
All right, so then the next agenda item is for us to look at our rankings and I guess determine if there are any adjustments to the rankings. I'm not sure if you want to do that now or wait till we get the new goals, but since that was a discussion item, did you all want to have a discussion on the goals? But we do have a lengthy agenda.
Hey, this is Chandra again, just to provide some context. So when you all are going through your strategic plan for this meeting, and I think maybe the next slide, I can't remember, brings in the SIP piece. This is just to familiarize the team, especially because you have new members, with kind of where you all ended the year last year as far as what you had in the strategic plan, how you ranked the priorities, the ranking of the priorities influenced and led the work that you guys did as far as the budget development last January through March. And then here on the orange column with the strategic plan priorities, those are the current priorities. And Principal Hollis, I'll turn it back over to you here because I believe this purple column, these are your SMART goals as it stands, right?
Yes, these were the SMART goals that we had to adjust and adopt in order to finish our budget cycle. And we were tasked to create the SIP goals that went from 23 to 25. And so that's why it covered this school year. So they read very similarly to the way that they read before, except for we increased by 5% by 2025 in literacy, as it relates to whole school population. The additional adjustment is that instead of looking at end of grade assessments, we're looking at MAP reading, going from 65% to 70% for the proficient and above learners. Our sub goal is to increase the Black population by 5% from 37 to 42, and students with special disabilities would increase by 6% from 22% to 28%. For math, similarly increasing by 5% overall, going from 57 to 62%, with sub goals for our Black students going from increasing by 5% from 22 to 27, and students with disabilities increasing from by 6% from 21% to 27%. And then our whole child SMART goal is looking at attendance rate, and that attendance rate, we wanted to focus on our subgroups as it relates to attendance for our subgroups, because they need to be present in order to move these subgroup populations. And we want to go from decreasing the absenteeism for our subgroup and for our Black students by 14%, so from 34% to 20% by the end of the school year, and for our English language learners by 5% from 24% to 19%. There was a hand, so I'm going to mute.
Since we have not seen the data on this yet, because I think that's the next agenda item, should we motion to postpone this discussion so we can see the
Well,
data
if you
first?
move through the PowerPoint slide, that's why I gave y'all the PowerPoint slide. The PowerPoint slide asks for me to present what this is, and then we go through the data, and then you are able to add or voice any concerns, some notices and wonders. That is the way that the PowerPoint presentation and the agenda was set up to flow.
So the idea is for us to get exposed to it so that we understand what the goals are, and then get the data, and then we can have a more definitive conversation about how we want to move going forward. An informed conversation about how we want to move. All right, Principal Hollis.
So this would mean that our key indicators have shifted from what they have been in the past. If I go back to the previous lens, we were doing everything from the lens of the Georgia Milestones Assessments. If you look here on our strategic plan, which we can still keep that as the lens for which we look at our strategic plan from a Go Team perspective. It's just that the school year ends sometimes, like past year, without us having that data, and definitely the data won't be released from the state for us to discuss. And so that's why we moved our continuous improvement plan to map results so that we can get that information faster and be able to discuss it before the end of the school year. So now going to the data, as we pointed out, so this is our end of year where we ended with the spring map results. And we've discussed this multiple times, but as you can see, we have what the overall math and reading map scores were, and then the information is disaggregated by grade. I did put the link for this slide deck in the chat in case you needed to go back to any previous slides. So then moving on from there, a comparison of our fall to fall map scores. So fall from last year to fall from this year for reading and math. At the top, it is overall aggregated data. And below, you see the disaggregated data over this year and last year. So a 2-year trend for fall to fall map data. So as you can see, even if you look back at what we have in our SIP in our strategic plan, we are interested in moving our subgroups. And so here you can see the subgroup data for reading and math as it relates to MAP from fall to fall. The line that is on the graph is where the district data sits. So comparing us to the district, the black line is where the district is overall.
So there was a little learning loss over the summer.
Oh, we can't really say that because the 8th graders are gone. We have new 6th graders. And so it's not an apples to apples comparison. And where the students were, because it's normed data, they expect the students to have a RIT score where the international norm data should be. And so that is kind of, and then it's transposing that to predicting data as it relates to milestones. That's how you get the subcategories for proficient and above. It's a predictor of how you will perform.
But based on where that line is for the district, we're outperforming the district for every subgroup on both tests.
Both years, yes. All right, continuing on. In our SIP goals, we called out our students with disabilities. So this is the aggregated data looking at students with disabilities versus students without disabilities for math, and reading for 2-year trend, fall to fall.
So again, we are outperforming the district.
Yes, the
Okay.
black line is still the
Yeah.
district line.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And these are different kids fall to fall because it's different 6th through 8th graders, correct?
Correct. That was 6th to 8th graders for 2023, and these are 6th to 8th graders that currently sit here 24-25. Next, we have the disaggregated data for our economically disadvantaged students. This was not called out on the SIP, but I do think that this shows even a larger gap. than we did for students with disabilities. So this is math and reading map. Students with disabilities or unknown because they did not complete that survey that lets us know if you're economically disadvantaged. Two-year trend, and yes, the black line is still that of the district. Next, we have our EL learners because we are calling that subgroup out for our SIP. I do need to stop sharing for a moment. 1 second.
Ms. Hollis, do you want me to share the slide presentation while you speak?
No, that wasn't the problem. I needed to delete some things that should not have gone public.
Okay.
Thank you. So I am sharing again. I do apologize for that. Was hoping that the embargo was going to be lifted, and it has not been. It is lifted next week, and I would love to stay employed with the state of Georgia. So needed to fix that problem. I see you, Mr. Anglin, laughing. So this is our EL data. Again, looking at our students that are English language learners, that were former English language learners, and that are monitored and who have never been or no longer.
So this slide shows that this is the first area where we're not outperforming, or this is the first subgroup rather that we're not outperforming the district.
It depends. So if you're looking at the EL first year and second year, that would be correct.
Okay.
In math. In
What determines?
reading,
Go ahead.
in reading, it's the same, but it's also we're not outperforming as it relates to the students that are monitored either.
Can you tell us what that means, monitored?
Monitored, I believe, means that you've been in the program for a couple of years and you're not quite out of the program. You're not at quite level 5. So you're still being monitored before you exit out.
And
But
sorry.
But I will verify that is what the data means.
And what about not LEP?
You were never in the program. You're not English language learner.
Is there a way to get previous data from 23-24 on this to see?
23-24 is already on there.
No, before 23-24?
Yes.
That would be. Do you know anything about that? What those trends look like? Are they continuing to decline, or is it down? Or
no, the year prior was better, but there's a lot of moving parts with ESOL students because not only do you have you matriculating through the school, you're matriculating through the English language learner program or English as a second language program, and yeah, so it's a lot of moving parts as far as who's represented in which year. So you're not going to stay in EL. You're going to move from EL, want to say, to monitored to former to out. But I will get that information. I can bring that to the next meeting if that is desired.
Yes, please.
I would love to learn more about the EL program and the former monitored and what that program looks like, if you're willing and if this is the right space.
I can also ask someone from that department to come and discuss that.
Mr. Baker, you had a question?
I will say that we noticed these trends, and that is why we started adding the subgroup into our continuous improvement plan. Did Mr. Baker have a question? Because I can't see everybody's. Okay, thank
He
you.
did not have a question.
All right. So then we go to our end of year data, our end of grade from the state, this summative data. I will say that this is a 3-year trend data that you're seeing in front of you. The districts at the top half of the screen, Howard's is at the bottom half of the screen. And again, like I said, it's 3-year trend data for ELA, physical science, which is the 8th grade. That's the high school physical science, 8th grade science, and so 8th grade social studies. You do not see math because that data is still embargoed, although we do have the data and families have received their individual score report. As you can see, trending, we are trending in the positive from 1 year, from last year to this year, or 2 years ago to last year. And even more so, like if you look at the ELA, we have outperformed 2 years ago as it relates to proficient and above. And we stayed steady. And if you want to really, if you look at the fact that we have no beginner learners in physical science, high school physical science this past year, so in that sense, outperform those past 2 years. While we outperformed the 22-23 school year for 8th grade science, we did not have the same momentum. You know, we didn't outperform 2 years ago, but we did outperform the prior year. And again, we outperformed the prior year in social studies, but we have not quite made it back to what we were doing 2 years ago. Here, again, we are sorry.
Miss Aldieri had a question.
I'm sorry, I can't see anybody, so you're gonna have to speak out.
Okay. Question, when I looked at APS insights for science data, it looked like some of the years they combined science and physical science, and some of the years the science definition group did not have physical science in it. Are all 3 of those years comparing apples to apples with the 22 through 24 for science?
Yes, all 3 of these are, because I disaggregated it and separated physical science from science.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. This is the same information, so I'm going to fast forward that one. This is the one that I thought was coming next, which is the ELA data disaggregated by grade level for end of grade assessment. The reason why I skipped the last one because all the kids are 8th graders. So disaggregating, it'll be the same results as you saw on the previous slide. So this is the ELA data disaggregated by grade level. As you can see, our 8th graders did really, really well. Not quite to the level that they were in 21, 22 school year, but very close actually. I think 2 points off from where we were with proficient and above in 8th grade. In 7th grade, again, outperform the past 2 years if you're looking at proficient and above. And in 6th grade, outperform the past 2 years if you're looking at proficient and above. Great thing in 7th and 8th grade, we also grew, like 8th grade and 7th grade is like the highest percentage of distinguished learners that we've had in those 2 grade bands in ELA in the past 3 years. I can't see if anybody has a comment or
No
chat or
questions.
anything. Okay, great. And if I press anything else, all that is going to be shown on YouTube. So that's why I'll leave it alone. This is our data disaggregated by students with disabilities and non-students with disabilities. And on the left, we have Howard's data, and on the right, we have the district's data. And it is trended for the past 3 years. And you can see a little bit over a 7 percentage point jump in last year's data for our Howard students with disabilities. And we were still able to exceed the 2 years ago for non-students with disabilities. So we were able to grow both groups and didn't just focus on one group or the other. And again, this is ELA only because math is embargoed. This is our ELA end of grade assessment data by subgroup ethnicity. And this is 3-year trend data. So on the left, again, is the Howard data. On the right is the district's data. So we had the highest percentage for proficient and above for white students over those past 3 years last year. We are about, what is that? Maybe a percentage point or so below in multiracial at its highest point. And
Yeah.
we are higher than last year, but still lower than 2 years ago for Hispanic learners, higher for Black non-Hispanic learners than we've been for the past 3 years, and higher for Asian Pacific Islander learners than we have been for the past 3 years.
And what was our goal? What were our goals related to this data? Or we didn't, they were only math.
We started off the year desiring a 3% gain in end of grade overall, and 3% gain in Black and special ed. And we met the goal for special ed, and we met the 3 percentage point gain for Black students. And we met the 3% gain in ELA. Did we got one? Well, no, we got 2, 1. We did not meet for overall. Maybe we did. I don't know. The numbers are blurring together for me right now.
I think I
I'm
saw
looking
on
at the
the
district
latest.
data. I'm sorry. We
Yeah,
did meet the goal for ELA overall. I was looking at the top, not the bottom. My bad.
you wrote on the later slide that
4.
we got 5.6.
Yes, 5.6, which is higher than 3% desired. Thank you. Any other questions? We were on this slide.
And
No.
our population is, what did you say, 49% gifted and talented now? Overall?
That's
Approximately.
coming up in the later in the presentation, but that has nothing to do with the data that's in front of you right now. This is last year's data.
Okay.
This does not include the 6th graders and the 8th graders that are now 9th graders. This includes the 8th graders that are now 9th graders, does not include the current 6th grade.
Any additional questions? If not.
So you can see our glows and our grows. Our glows are that we increase proficient and above learners for all subjects. We decrease the beginning level learners for all subjects. We increase proficiency for the subgroups that we were targeting. And the students perform better actually on the state end of year summative end of grade assessment than they did on the spring map. Grows is 7th grade ELA had a slight increase in beginning learners. And the fall map data is starting lower than we did last year for 7th and 8th grade in math and 7th grade in ELA. We are on target to successfully accomplish. Are we on target to successfully accomplish these the priorities that we have set? And I just said, based on the ELA end of grade assessments data, we increased by 5.6%, and the goal was 3%, and math is embargoed. So the discussion protocol is asking us to think about what do you notice, what are you wondering, and any additional questions that you may have. And I can go back to whichever page in the slide that you need me to go to.
I mean, it looks like we're still struggling with our special subgroups. So we still got work to do. But overall, I think the data looks good. Like, right? Like, good job.
I'm just looking at the data for the first time, so I'd love to look at it a little bit longer offline.
Yeah, but good job. I mean, growing 5.6%, that's amazing. And I'm so interested to see the math when it gets unembargoed.
You're gonna love it.
Why are they using that term?
That is a state term. I can't answer that.
It's just not ready for release yet. Any other questions? Thank you, Principal Hollis, and to the staff for the work that you're doing. There's still work to be done, but we're moving in the right direction, so thank you. All right. Next, we are on the Go Team External Communication Protocol. I dropped this on one of our team members had a question after we started receiving the emails from our community members, just how we respond. And we don't have an official protocol. So I thought to drop it on as a discussion item. Just in my experience, it is typically the chair of a body like this that would communicate as the voice of the body with feedback, typically from the executive team, which I think in this case would be our elected folks, chair, vice chair, secretary, and I think we should also include Principal Hollis, just because everything we do and say impacts her as well. But I'm happy to discuss that. I just want to make sure that we're sending a one voice message and thank you, Ms. Eldery, for responding. I don't know that I would have responded any differently, but I just want us to have something going forward so that it's clear how we're going to respond to those types of inquiries. Or if you guys like my idea, we'll go with my idea.
I reviewed the policy on the Go team, and what the spirit is. You know, the Go team was set up to engage the community. Go team members are elected, and I can drop the policy in the chat. It does give some guidelines in our Go team manual that the principal is the voice for PR, but the intention of the Go team is to engage the community. So I think, you know, I don't know what you're proposing, but I think that maybe if we attend Saturdays, I think it's next Saturdays, for their training, maybe we can get some clarity on some of those communication items. Because I do think that individuals are allowed to respond to an email with information or have conversations with community members, because that is what the Go team is intended to do in the charter system and the contract between APS and the Department of Education.
I
Ms. Gibson,
agree.
can you provide any further insight from, being from the Go Team office around this topic?
I can, if Mr. Baker, if he wants to go, and then I can hop in.
You go ahead, Sandra.
No, you go on. I'm an observer, so team members first.
I was just saying that we can always speak to the community as Go team members. I agree, but at the same time, if something's being directed to the Go team as a whole, it seems like we should have a holistic approach to how we respond to that. Whether that be coming from everyone puts their information, sends it to Ms. Hollis or through Shalonda. I think otherwise, if something was rather critical and I gave my opinion on what it was, it could create kind of a firestorm of me representing the Go team and saying something that, is half-baked. And I definitely would hate to see anything get more complex in communications around things. Thank you, Ms. Gibson.
Yep, and actually, Mr. Baker, you were, spot on. So it really boils down to, and to Ms. Miller, she kind of brought it up too. When you all are communicating and the intent is to share information, responses, whatever the case may be, that reflects the body as a whole, then, typically that would come from the chair on behalf of the team, if that makes any sense. That doesn't mean that, like, let's say if, someone emails Mr. Baker and asks him, or wants to share with him, from whatever constituent group he represents, hey, these are my thoughts on X, Y, and Z, what have you heard about this, right? Asking his opinion as an individual, then obviously he could respond as an individual. But when it comes to, things that would be actions or questions, things that would be considered kind of full team business, then you would kind of defer to the chair unless you all created a different protocol as a team.
And I think that's what I'm asking. So Ms. Nolan put in the chat, I don't know if everybody's going to see your chat. I don't know how it works if they're watching. So if you want to speak it out loud, otherwise I'll just read it.
I just said I don't have any issue with the things that are sent, and I do think that that is an important point, that we are engaging the community and that it has to feel that way to the community. So I do think that it would be good to have a policy, and that policy should be that if someone sends a comment, we do have a response that goes back so that people know that that comment has been received. And some of it could I'm not fully in favor of form comments, but we do need an acknowledgement that it was received, that the Go team has looked at it like that. And that is, I think, really important.
I agree with that.
And I did reach out to the central office Go team and was informed that we can share publicly available information with individuals, such as the information that was shared. You can send people the meeting date, the Zoom call, the documents that are publicly available or resources publicly available. That is, we are meant to engage the community and also meant to get feedback and accept that. And like you said, acknowledge receipt of that. I believe at one point there was the Go team had to respond within so many days, but I couldn't find that, but I think in history it used to be that way. If someone made a public comment, the Go team had to respond in some way and give some formal response. It is challenging when we make formal statements that are on behalf of the entire Go team offline when we can't conduct business when we're not in a meeting.
Yeah, no, I definitely think part of our policy should be to respond. Maybe our response is within 48 hours, if everybody's okay with that. I just want to make sure that, because I was intending, just so you know, Ms. Eldery intended to say, hey guys, I'm planning to respond. Here's what I'm thinking of responding. Anybody have any feedback or input, let me know. But you'd already responded. So I didn't want to have duplicate communications for our team, because I wanted to make sure that it's clear that we act as a body, and we're not as a body, we have a response. So it doesn't have to be funneled through me. I do think that it should have some consideration of the entire team, though, what information we're putting out. But Ms. Moore?
I have a question about conducting business versus engaging. And I'm new, and I'm sorry, I did the training. But is engaging the community a form of conducting business if we're not supposed to be conducting business outside of this space?
No, so I think as long as we're not
a quorum.
So yeah, so a couple of things. So we can't talk substantively about an issue, and I don't think we should even engage a community member as a full body, because the emails had our full body. So that's a full body communication about substantive stuff. So, I think a pure acknowledgement, hey, we've gotten this. We will take it up for consideration at our next Go team meeting. We understand your concerns, something like that. It's fine. That's not business. That's just, hey, we hear you. But I think if we start trying to, so for example, if someone, and of course you guys are the best, so no one did this, but someone said, yeah, I agree with that. And this is why. I think that's different. So I think that's the difference, and we need to, that should probably be a part of, and we don't have to formally adopt anything. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. It was brought to my attention. Like I said, I had intended to respond, but I did not want to duplicate efforts. So I just thought it'd be something that we could discuss and just keep in the background. I'm fine if Ms. Eldery wants to be the point person. She's the secretary to collect any information, feedback, and what we shoot back out. But I do think it should be uniform and whole, and not just in one of us taking the onus. And like I said, typically it's the chair that does that, if that's going to happen. I got enough things to do, so I'm not trying to own it, but I do want us to have something that we agree to. Just generally, it doesn't have to be a vote, but just a consensus.
And I actually went back and found, I think, what you referenced, Dion, that the guidance Carolyn shared. And so what she shared was that if a person reaches out for general information about Go teams, that's something any member could respond to. For example, providing the dates and times for meetings or providing the meeting links. However, if the person requires an answer to a question or an item that should be brought before the entire body, then she would advise, similar to what I said, that any member, who received that communication would bring the question or request to the team to discuss or respond as the body. And if that occurs, it would be appropriate for the chair to respond. And then, as always, when you're considering communications, you also want to honor the chain of command and ensure that whatever you all are responding to as the body is something that falls kind of in that governance bucket, as opposed to something that maybe should be going to I'm sorry for my voice, to the principal as a part of, their management responsibilities.
And can I ask a question? Just so that I'm clear. So the response, though, I mean, I don't think anything inappropriate was said at all. The response from any of us has to be what was said, basically, because we cannot respond substantially unless we convened a meeting and everything else, right? So we couldn't actually respond to the comment other than the acknowledgement and giving them the information about the next meeting and everything else. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We might say, I love you. I'm kidding. That'd be inappropriate. All right, so can we just have a general agreement, 48 hours? If there's anything else people want to add, we'll take a tick to figure that out, and then we'll respond.
I think that y'all probably want to figure out when it comes to the whole team, how that response goes, because there's a difference between sending it to an individual and that individual shares it to the team to come up with, okay, just making sure everybody knows, and they respond with an acknowledgement in kind versus the emails that's going to the whole group.
Well, I was thinking this would be for the whole group. So if something comes to the whole group, we'll respond because we want to be interactive within 48 hours. We'll allow the group an opportunity if they have any, not substantive inputs, but maybe, hey, maybe you can include the link to this because maybe I won't think of it, or maybe Ms. O'Deary won't think of it. And then we'll send out a response. Either I can do it or Ms. O'Deary can do it. Is that good? And then if you get something individually, I would hope that you'd share with all of us. I don't know that it's required, but I would hope that you'd share with all of us so that we can consider those things as well.
According to what Ms. Gibson just said, it is required. As this is an engagement that occurred, and we want to make the whole body aware that this is information that may be pertinent, may not be pertinent to whatever the discussion items were, or it might be something that we want to change the agenda to address. So it just depends on what the topic is.
So if you get something individually and it has to do with the business of the Go team, please share it. All right. Thank you guys for indulging me. And we are at 5:55, 5:55. So we have 20 minutes. So let's go faster. DTH math status. I didn't put this on here. Who put this on the agenda?
I did.
Oh.
You didn't give me a cue that we were moving to the next thing, so I'm trying to get the slides up that I can present. So because there has been so much conversation about this math advisory, I just wanted to make sure we were aware before we go into this conversation what is going on from the school's perspective. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Okay, and so just making sure we're aware of how things fall from a governance versus a management perspective. The Go team focuses on the big picture, all students, gives input on and approves the key improvement priorities, adopts strategic plans and budget design to address priorities and provides input about budget resources and operations to raise student achievement. The principal's management bucket serves as the expert on the school and the strategic plan and priorities, makes decisions about the day-to-day operations and school personnel, fleshes out strategies, implements and manages them at the school level, designs budget process operational changes that can raise student achievement. Again, some of the things that were lifted, I just wanted to make sure we were aware of which lens that they fall under. So the retake policy, as it relates to its alignment with the APS board policy, is a governance. The retake policy in general is more management. Review of the data trends in alignment with the school strategic plan, goals 1 and 2. The priorities are listed there. Updating school strategic priorities based on the data. Governance. Management is the student outcomes, academic and whole child support, school culture, classroom environment, grade, subject area, professional learning communities, teacher selection, teacher support, teacher evaluation, coordination with district on instructional frameworks, pacing, and assessments. Those are principal management lenses. What are we doing right now? Where in the past, we worked in conjunction with the GO team to have conversations about math. That was done in November of 2023. We did reach out to the constituents that were at that meeting to see if there needed to be a follow-up meeting, and Ms. Miller was one of the people who helped host that conversation. And families did not feel like they needed more at that time. We did work to, based on the information that was shared in that meeting, decided to invite the DOE math coordinator. I'm not sure if that is her title, but she had multiple people from her team in that space to discuss the changes to the math curriculum and standards, since last year was the first year with those set standards, and streamline the expectations with assessment, grading, and honestly communication. Because when I got to Howard, the communication planner, who you spoke to for what, was all over the place. So presently, we have launched some parent and student perception surveys for Algebra 1, since a lot of the concerns that have been coming to us have been around 7th grade accelerated. From those concerns, we have determined that some families wanted a textbook. And if you recall, last year, the district decided not to adopt a math textbook for the middle school space. 2 years ago, the district adopted a math textbook for elementary and high school spaces. So we were supposed to adopt last year, and we did not. Out of the messaging and communication with our families, only 21 out of the 1,082 parents or families that were contacted, only 21 of those families asked for a book. We have consulted with the secondary math coordinator and specialist concerning the alignment of our CFAs, which are school-based, with those state standards. So the CFAs are common formative assessments, which are what we use for our quizzes. And at this time, we are still using the district assessments, and the district assessments for math utilizes the state questions. Ms. Moore, am I right in that statement? Yes.
You're doing great.
Okay, great. And so what will we do in the future? We will continue to receive feedback around our parent and student perception of how things are going. I think I do have a pretty open door policy. A lot of parents do email me or request meetings, and that will help to inform the management side of what's going on. We can also consider requesting for, in a GO team meeting, the data strategist that works with our school curriculum coordinator was here but hit to drop off, or any social emotional learning specialist for the district to attend or be invited to a work session with the Go team in order to ensure that we are aligned to the school strategic plan and the needs of our Go team and students. With the perception data, we asked only 2 questions because we were just trying to get some feelings data since I presented earlier the quantitative data. And we only surveyed the current 8th graders that were in accelerated 7th grade last year, because around the same time last year, we started to get concerns around 7th grade accelerated math, and 83% of them felt either very prepared or somewhat prepared for the next course based on their coursework in 7th grade. And we also asked them how would they predict that they would perform on an end of grade assessment in that they just took. And 45%, honestly, it was kind of funny. 45% said they felt like they would perform at proficiency, and 45% felt like they would perform at distinguished. Based on that information, we then went to poll our families, and in that space, we wanted some perception data because not all the time in the time that I've been here do we hear from all constituents as a cross section of Howard's community. And in this space, we just wanted them to rank the statements that are in the gray above. It was not in order to do anything necessarily with it, but to bring it to the table for for conversation. Again, we only targeted the families that were in the same space as the 7th grade families are in now, that have been lifting their concerns as it relates to 7th grade accelerated. And we just asked them to rank where our priorities should lie, just like we do when we look at the school priorities and we rank them as to where we're going to decide to spend our budgets. Again, it does not mean that all these things are not important to us. It means that we have to figure out where we want to spend most of our time and efforts based on what the community desires. So this was about 40% of the families. That data is represented here.
May I ask I'm sorry, may I ask one question on that slide? So I'm sorry, I'm just making sure I'm reading right because I don't see the numbers on the lines, but it is 1 over on the left of the bar, and then there's a line. So all of these are below 4 or above 4. Sorry, does that make sense?
No,
Yeah.
so I think Ms. Nolan, and the way I'm seeing this representation is that the most important things to the families that were surveyed was preparedness for advanced math.
Okay, so there is not anything about how they, okay, never mind, that's fine, thank you.
The question, we could only rank 1. It wasn't individual ranking. I think if other people saw how this survey was set up.
It's set up the same way we do when we rank the priorities, like the school priorities. You can't have multiple ones as number 1. You have to have a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, a number 5. The statements are the statements, and just determine which one is your number 1. It does not mean that all of them are not important. Kind of like what we do with the school strategic priorities.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Shalonda, I have a question.
Of course.
So are parents upset that their children aren't performing well in the class? Because according to the data, they're doing well. So are parents upset that they don't feel like their children are performing at where they think they should grade-wise?
Correct.
But the data shows that they are performing. So
So
Okay.
this is the beginning of the school year. So there have only been a handful of in-class assessments. If that, like I say, a handful is probably 2 or 3 at this point.
Right. And this,
Um,
because
and
it's still early in the school year. So,
Yeah.
so our goal would then to help the parent perception, and your kids will be okay, right?
I think, Ms. Patel, I can give you the feedback that
Mr.
I've received.
Ms. Elderi, Mr. Brooks had his hand raised.
Well, I didn't know we were doing hands. I thought.
Unmute yourself, Mr. Brooks. If you can, because
I
it's
can. I would yield. I want to just add one thing, and then I would yield to Dr. Eldiri to the extent that I'm giving up time. But Dr. Patel, what this is about the in-class experience. Obviously, at grade end and the assessments are great. We're talking about test grades that they get in class, and how gifted children who have made in the 90s consistently are coming back with grades in the 70s. Test grades, in-class test grades.
Ms. Eldiri.
There is valid concern here as someone who's been in the school for 4 years, and has had 3 children go through or be in the school. We should have very high scores in our school because 50% of our population is gifted and talented. So
That's not true. Last year we did not have 50%.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about
we're going towards 49%. I just wanted to click. I don't want us to put data out there that's not accurate. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
So a large percentage of our children are gifted and talented. We should be higher than the district in our data, always. We also should do very well overall on the state tests. With regards to math, our 6th graders, our math data should be skewed because a large portion of them take half the year of 7th grade. And for the 7th grade milestones, we haven't seen them yet, but a large portion of them will have gotten not only 7th, but all of 8th grade math when they're taking the 7th grade. So I think we do need to talk about that. But when we look at the data, and I look forward to seeing that data and having that conversation, but some of the current concerns that people have brought are that these are our children who should be doing very well. And, they may be getting great on classwork and doing well on quizzes. And then the average grade overall for a course is, I'm just going to fictitiously put something out like a 67, or it just doesn't make sense. The quantitative data doesn't match the qualitative data. And that's what we're looking to do with the community engagement committee, hopefully. And we'll talk about that next. From my understanding is that the feedback we're getting from the parents does not align with some of the scores that we're seeing at the end of the year. And the question is why? So that's what we're hoping to figure out.
All right, Principal Hollis, you want to?
There are a couple of fallacies there. It is not 50% of our students that are in accelerated math. A third of our students are in accelerated math, and the other 2/3 are on grade level. So yes, it should be skewed. And the second thing is that giftedness does not have anything to do with subject area giftedness. Giftedness is overall. And so no assessment that has identified a child as gifted says that they are gifted in one subject versus another in the state of Georgia. So quickly moving through the rest of these slides, because I only have like 3 more. This is the data by year, by quarter. So mid-year, end of semester, mid-semester, first semester, end of first semester, mid-year, second semester, a mid-semester, second semester, and end of second semester, the percentage of students that's passing and the average of their end of grading period for accelerated math only. Then this slide is the data as it relates to that and the percentage of students that are hitting proficient and above in both accelerated and in Algebra 1.
So the first slide you showed us, that was the classroom level data, the grades that they're getting in class.
Correct. For 3 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
So is the perception then of the community that is engaging us with this situation, is their thought that at 86 is too low?
So just on my limited understanding, and I had a 7th grader last year who struggled in accelerated 7th grade math. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm fresh off of this. The first test scores have been low in the 7th grade accelerated math group. Don't know why. My 7th grader had a similar experience last year. She ended up doing fine. She passed. She's on the algebra. She's doing fine in algebra. But this, I think we have a group of people who are used to their children getting 90s and above, and they have seen test scores, some I've heard as low as 40. And so it is troubling as a parent. Most of us are parents. It's troubling as a parent to wrap your head around that when that's not the environment you're used to, I think. So I think that's where we are.
Okay.
I think also last year we heard a lot of, I believe we had one of the engagements, we had a large portion of parents raise their hand when they were asked how many parents have tutors to get these grades, outside tutors. And so equity was a concern as well in that. And is there something here that we are, again, let's engage the community and figure out kind of what's going on. We're also seeing this, to Sudi's point at the last meeting regarding communication, and we're seeing some of these trends now since the last meeting, some of these trends in other core courses. I know my son actually went through accelerated math last year. He did not have a problem, but he's one of those high achieving children. He just gets it. Each child is different, but we are seeing some of these same concerns since our last GO team meeting across other subjects. So the question is again, our qualitative data is not aligning with our quantitative data, and engaging the community and kind of gathering some of that feedback to see if there's something that we can identify, and then Principal Hollis can work with her team on maybe some innovations or something could be changed. And like she said, we could pull in and invite some individuals to do engagements. And if those live within a GO team meeting, the community cannot engage those individuals because the community can only do 2-minute public comments. So that's why they would have to live in a committee if it was under the umbrella of a GO team versus within the GO team, because community can't engage within these meetings.
All right.
And also, I only brought math data because that was what was discussed in the last meeting. So in attempt to respond in kind to what was being asked of the school, that's the data that was presented. And I do think as an employee of Atlanta Public Schools that we are in transition. And while we want to believe that everything is perfect because we've hired the superintendent and now tomorrow you turn the page on the chapter and it's perfect, it's not. And in that space, assessments has, to Ms. Eldery and Ms. Moore's point, assessments has always been a sticking point since I've been in the district for whatever reason, and for different reasons. So the issue with assessments is not the same issues year on year, year over year. It does depend on who's handling or who's giving, who's creating or curating. And Mr. England is shaking his head as well. And sometimes it's with school-based input, and sometimes it's not. And we are all reacting to the hand that's dealt. So I just wanted to make sure I gave an update on the status of mathematics at Howard before we moved on into the discussion or consideration of that math advisory committee.
All right. And so we are at 6:17. We're 2 minutes over. Is everybody agreeable to spending another 15 to 20 minutes on the math advisory discussion? Consensus, yes, okay. All right.
With the hard stop at 6:30, please.
Yes, please. Yeah, absolutely.
The only question I'd have is that if Ms. O'Leary, you mentioned that there's some in other subject matters, things are coming up now. So I'm wondering, is this now going to be, should this be a discussion about a subcommittee that's not just math based, or are we going to end up with multiple committees, do we think?
So do we want to move into that next subject, or did you need to wrap up?
No, I'm finished. So it is the next topic. I do want to point out to Mr. Baker's question. It was concerning to me that the first time that I heard about an issue with the social studies assessment was when I was sitting in the community meeting with the superintendent. I did not have any parents to raise that concern with me. And it would just be nice to have the communication that's desired to go out from the building to also come in.
That is fair.
Yeah.
All right, I want to give everybody a chance to talk, and I know we only have a short time to talk. Is there anybody who would like to express feelings, thoughts, concerns about a math advisory committee? Ms. Elderi, I know you have things, so.
Mr. Baker asked a question of me, I believe. So I think what you asked, similar to what I think Mr. Anglin and Ms. Nolan brought up the last meeting, is maybe this is more of a communication engagement committee, and we engage the community and get feedback on what they're expressing. I went back, I read the handbook, again and again, a couple of times. I also read the board policy, and that's what our community is telling us. They want a safe place that's confidential, which I really like. I know that we've seen some feedback that, if people feel more comfortable emailing or messaging, if that feedback lives within the Go team, it is confidential, which I think is great. And that's within our handbook. If we choose to do engagements in a community, if we design a community engagement, an engagement committee, we could invite different individuals from the district, as Principal Hollis said, and hold a town hall on the information, or have ask Principal Hollis's team, based on the community's engagement and feedback, if they want to learn more about social studies or testing or the progression or what the district has to offer, those kind of things, we can facilitate that within a committee. And then the community can truly engage those individuals. So I would, based on the feedback in the last 4 weeks, expand it to a communication engagement committee. In regards to the social studies, I did make a comment, and I actually did reach out to my teacher, who actually is the head of social studies, on Monday. And we had a team meeting. I actually asked for it earlier. So I am sorry that that was not lifted to you. I did.
And I wasn't targeting you because you weren't the only person that made that comment. So I was.
Well, I'm just
and Miss Elderi, I would
I'm
like
just
to
letting
allow
you
other
know.
people the opportunity to speak. I don't want to allow you to monopolize the last 9
Right.
minutes.
Okay, so I'll drop these 3 things that I think the committee could focus on.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts about forming a special committee? It seems like it has evolved from a math advisory committee to something else.
I have some concerns. When you say that this committee would be able to truly engage with the staff or the district level people who make these assessments, I'm very concerned when we're already receiving so much communication already, and it's not a safe place for us to be able to share what our thoughts and feelings are as well. I'm very apprehensive about that aspect of it. I also I'm not clear how this committee would be governing. This feels more like management, which is not our role. And then the third piece is having seen the embargo data, I know that while it feels uncomfortable at this beginning of the year points and has consistently over the years, that we are performing, as Ms. Patel pointed out, our algebra data is amazing and I can't wait for you guys to see it. So I know that we're in a rough point right now, and I know that there is a small subset of families that is feeling uncomfortable with what is happening from a qualitative point. I'm just not understanding and confused and apprehensive about this committee.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Hey, this is Sandra. I just want to jump in with one thing around the confidential piece. I don't know if that's what you guys were desiring, but as a governing body, the things that you all are emailing are subject to open records, and even committees are subject to the open meeting laws of the state. So
I'm talking to page 26 from the Go Team handbook that references confidentiality access to personnel information. So if a personnel if someone personnel was mentioned, that's confidential. So that's what I'm speaking to. It's directly in the handbook. Go Team members may be privy to confidential information, and as a result of their Go Team, and they cannot disclose personnel information.
Right. And so
that's what I was speaking to.
Right. So, okay, not that the submissions to the committee would be confidential. Is that what you're saying?
No, correct. If something was brought up about a specific student's name or a specific teacher,
and it was
in a survey or a feedback, that would not, when that lives within Go Team, those things, from my understanding, are confidential according to the Go Team handbook.
Right. So let me clarify
that. That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So in the handbook, when it talks about personnel, it's about the Go Team's role in personnel decisions. So that's specifically like we cover in orientation. And that goes back even to, the allowable times for you all to go into an executive session. And that's related to personnel. And that's with the selection of the principal.
I don't think this section is with regards to the principal. This just says we may be privy to our
personnel. I don't want to take up you all's time, but what I'm saying is that the Go Team, and with 7-8 years doing this work, the only personnel information that Go Teams would be privy to, that you would be given, would be during the principal selection process. Go Teams don't have access to individual staff data. Go Teams don't have access to, personnel information. And I want to clarify that, because I don't want staff members, it's more, staff members to think that the district or anyone is giving personnel information to the Go Teams, because we don't do that. The clear delineation about personnel information that would or could be given to Go Team members is exclusively as it relates to the principal selection process. And we can talk about that more offline, but Go Team members have not, that hasn't happened.
Okay, thank you for that point of clarification, Ms. Gibson. Ms. Nolan. And we have 4 minutes.
Yeah, I won't take up much time, but I didn't think that, like, I wanted to clarify that that was not how I understood it. Were you saying, Ms. Aldieri, that if there were discussions inside that and a teacher's name came up, as for instance, they did in some of the other comments that do not live with the Go team, that then once they're with the Go team, then there is a controlling body holding that information? I'm just trying to understand that piece.
From my understanding,
let's not engage in this.
Please finish. So if there was a
No,
survey,
Ms.
I
Aldieri,
would turn feedback
my
back
job as
to
chair,
the
Ms. Aldieri, my job as chair is to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak to the topic. You've gotten a lot of time, and I know there are other people who may want to speak. And so, Ms. Nolan, just as a general principle, we are an open body. Nothing here is confidential. Like we can visit what Ms. Aldieri is speaking to at a later time. We can drop it as a discussion item next time. But just as a general principle, everybody should know that the things that we discuss are to be discussed in public. That's the whole point of an open meeting. Dr. Bryant, did you want to know, Miss Dr. Patel?
Yeah, so back to Ms. Moore, I agree with her. I feel as though our teachers and admin aren't able not to defend themselves, but if we have these open meetings with just the parents, the community, and people from the district, I don't feel as though the people that are truly doing the work are represented. And maybe we have a meeting with teachers, faculty, staff of the school first, just to bring up the subject and kind of get their feedback first before just speaking for them. But again, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but I just feel as though the teachers need to be able to defend themselves and why these grades are happening or whatnot.
And I'll just say this. I don't think we should put our teachers in a posture to defend themselves.
Yeah.
We got to trust our teachers.
Right.
And so, Dr. Bryant, did you have something?
My only thing is that it's, to me, I mean, we've never had a math advisory committee, and I've been on the first Go team when it was established with Karstoffen at Inman Middle School. And it just seems to me, my gut feeling, that this will become get out of control. I didn't like, and I'm being honest, I didn't like to see the things that I read about things pertaining to the curriculum, how the curriculum was administered here at the school. Looking at our data, we are doing very well. And then bringing in people's names. I'm very leery about this particular committee and any committee with the name social studies, language, arts, science, whatever the committee is. I think that our administrative team, consisting primarily of Dr. Ms. Hollis and her administrators, can handle the things at this school. I think that we do have open communications. I think that we do have an area where on a monthly basis that we talk to parents. They can sign up and so forth. But just to have a committee saying math, that doesn't sound right to me. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm against that. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Baker, you made yourself visible. Did you want, it is 6:30 and that's our hard stop. Nope. All right. I know
before we hard stop, I think Ms. Aldieri does need to list or vocalize the 3 things she typed in the chat, at least, just because I want to make sure that it gets on the YouTube, recording and is not just in chat.
Ms. Aldieri. You're muted. You're unmuted now.
So this would be a engagement committee that, straight from our strategic plan, the goal would be to foster a culture of student support and a system of school support It would provide a safe, positive, informed, and engaged school culture, and it would foster academic excellence for all. And we would engage Ms. Patel, all stakeholders as Go Team members, which would include all stakeholders, community members, teachers, parents, and students. And we would provide them engagement opportunities in a safe, positive, and informed place. And that would be the goal. And that is what the community is asking for. With regards to any surveys or any feedback forms we did, they would be subject to open records. However, certain things could be redacted by APS open records requests and the lawyers there, including teachers' names and probably students' names, from my understanding. And I did look into that.
All right. I did want to say something, but we are now at 6:32, so I won't.
You can keep going. I just need to get my kids at a certain time. So I'll you can keep going now.
No,
So I'm going to go ahead and motion. I'm going to put a motion in to establish an engagement committee that will engage the community and foster a culture of student support, system of school support, a safe, positive, informed, and engaged school culture, and foster academic excellence for all.
Is there a second?
I will.
You started there. Yeah.
I will second, but I do have a question as well.
Okay, it has been properly seconded. Now let's have discussion.
Is there a lifespan on the committee? Do we designate that?
The lifespan
is committee is 1 year. That's what Ms. Jacoby said last meeting. It cannot go beyond that year. You have to re-up it every year.
So it would be for the duration of this school year. All right. Any other discussion? Well, since we have made a motion and we're doing it, I have heard the community concerns. I've talked to people in person. I have seen them online. I've talked to staff. I've talked to administrators. I've talked to teachers. I've tried to really engage in this because I want to be informed as a Go Team member when I'm making decisions. And I have a lot of concerns about the culture in our community and amongst our parents and how we treat our staff, administrators. I think that might be Mr. Brooks. Let's see if it is. Yep. And I have concerns about a committee and how broadly it will reach. Right now, we tend to engage a small subset of our parents. Our very vocal parents, our parents of our high achievers tend to be the most vocal. They tend to be the most active, and they get all the attention and feedback. Our data does not support that is the population that we need to be focused on. And so I have a serious concern. I cannot support this. And so I just wanted everybody to understand why and to make sure everybody know that I've talked to all the people, as many as I could, prior to coming to that conclusion. Any other discussion?
I cannot support it either for the same reasons. The people that we're hearing from does not represent the people that we need to support based strictly on data. With this committee, I just don't believe that it's going to get to the people that need the support.
So, and I would just say one of the reasons that I am in favor of it is because I do think that we are hearing from our community, and that you are correct, we may be hearing from a very small subset, but that part of our job is to engage the community. So we don't know what we're hearing unless we also open that discussion up and reach the wider community. Otherwise, this lives with a very small, potentially small, we don't know, subset, and it may be very loud, and we may be overlooking other things that we should look at, which is why I do support it, not for math, but for all engagement.
Any other discussion? And I will say this, I think that we shouldn't it doesn't have to live with the Go team, right? There are opportunities for community engagement that don't have to live here. There's no special protections that you get from being attached to the Go team. There might be a perception of what we can do. I think it might be broader than what we actually can do. But we can engage, and we had engagement sessions last year. We can engage without having to form a committee under the Go team. Our parents can form a committee to engage. Like we take communication back and forth. So I don't want anyone to think that we're not interested in engagement. I just have concerns that we're not going to engage everyone, and we got to be more thoughtful about that. So
Mr. Baker had raised his hand.
I understand everybody's opinions on this. My only concern is by moving from math to now, a more general committee, which I think might be beneficial. I almost feel like it's too broad, that, the expected goals there's not enough meat there to how do people know what they're engaging with, because otherwise it sounds like it's just a place for people to give feedback and to try to see if their issue or their concern has enough interest in other folks, which, if that's kind of what it is, just a broader sounding board, it feels like that's embedded within the school, or it should be embedded within the school now.
So last night we voted on adding a engagement committee in the Midtown CAT. So that was voted on last night, which is the next level up. And that committee will be charged with coordinating town halls to engage the committee on what they've expressed interest in. So that would be the same thing. We would be, that's being proposed right now.
So you're saying it is going to be part of CAT?
No, CAT's different. So the community has expressed wanting information on, these would be specific Howard related issues. Those are larger, broader issues. So with data dig, safety and security, things of that nature that are broader in scope for the cluster, overall cluster.
And I totally understand, having been through this many times. It feels like you say, like the data dig and the security, even if it deals specifically with Howard, those are issues that come up through the school that we deal with through that. It's never been a Go team doesn't organize those kind of events necessarily. That's really more on this policy.
It actually has if you look in the handbook, there's like our goal is to engage at one point. I believe we got an email from one parent today. There used to be FELTS established. It is actually one of our charges to engage the committee and to provide learning opportunities. So.
And I thought that's what our meetings are every month. So I apologize. I was wrong.
We're not engaging.
Any more discussion?
This is Chandra. I will say, so the FELTS, originally family engagement, that committee was under Go teams. Now that, the family engagement office is kind of separate and has grown more, they manage the FELTS, and there is or should be a FELT at Howard. So that does still exist. I don't, know as much about what's going on with it because they're separate from Go teams now, but that does still exist.
And we can look into that and get that information.
Oh, the good thing about us postponing last time the meeting means that our next meeting is pretty quickly coming up. So I do want to get through the budget stuff right quick. If maybe we can motion to.
So I'll call the question. There's already been a motion and a second, so we got to vote at this point. All those in favor of a community engagement committee as put forward by to foster culture, safe and positive, informed, environment, school culture, and academic excellence for all, please raise your hand.
I can't. This is Doug Brooks. I can't raise my hand,
Okay.
but I'm voting yes.
Okay, that's 3 yays. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nays. And is there an abstention? 1 abstention. It fails for a lack of majority vote. All right, Principal Hollis.
Thank you for that. I think that I do try to engage with the families and to offer whole group learning experience for parents as they inform me that that is something they're interested in. So while we're still trying to figure out how we want to formulate this committee, if there are such sessions, town halls that we do need to have for the school, I am more than willing to get the people in the room to have said meetings. I do have principals copies every month. I do invite state people, district people to these meetings. Ms. Elderi and Ms. Miller, y'all come regularly. So, I do attempt to listen to the voices that are asking for more information. I will say that in the space that we have been in, the teachers were very concerned about the formation of this committee. I I just would like to know if there is another way or information that's not being, ooh, that's not supposed to be there. Information is not being shared that is desired to be shared, or engagement opportunities that are desired that aren't being given. If that is the case, I'm trying to get back to this presentation. Then, you know, I would love for people to let me know, and I will coordinate with whomever. Not what I'm trying to do either. This slide deck is not working with me. Um, Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. I do want to get through the other things so we can be in compliance right quick, and I will go very quick. Well, I will go as quickly as you all allow. We did get the budget adjustments. At the time of the 15-day count, our enrollment was 1,082. As of today, it is 1,085. But at the time that counts for money, we increased by 15, and we received with the holdback that we could not touch and the increase for the enrollment. We now gained access to $136,453. And we did gain access to $45,000 for the safety grant. We the safety grant was for $47,000 per school, but $2,000 was pulled back in order to update and monitor the AED machines in every school. So when we met in the spring, the question was, if we had access to our holdback, what would we do with it? These are the things that we agreed upon. Those are the things that we did put the money in for. And the only other difference is that we adjusted dollars because substitutes cost more this year. If it's a certified substitute, I think it's $220 this year, and an uncertified substitute is $180 or $185 per day. Which means that actually in the past month, the school spent in August $11,000 on substitutes, and that was not how at this rate we were going to be in the negative. So I increased it from 25 to 40, and we're probably going to have to increase some more. We did not have any personnel changes with that money because that really barely buys a teacher. The safety grant that we were talking about, we still are looking into getting coverings for the open glass rooms in the courtyard areas to classrooms that the whole wall is almost glass, two-way radios, and the additional camera, exterior camera, and we are looking to get a quote for vape detection in the restrooms. And so that's all I needed to go over. The principal report, we can ask everyone to access the principal's copy so they can get that information. I didn't know if anybody had any comments or questions as it relates to the security grant that maybe I can possibly answer at this time.
And just for the public, any questions? I'm gonna read Mr. Baker's comment. That maybe we convene a work session outside of our meeting, so we can flesh out maybe some engagement sessions with folks. I think that'd be great. Our next meeting is pretty quick, so maybe at our next meeting we can propose some dates and put them out there and figure out what stakeholders, community stakeholders, district level, state level, we might want to invite and see if they might be available to join us for some engagement with our community and making sure that we get those out to our entire community to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible. And any announcements? The 28th, send it out. The G3 Summit, Leading with Purpose, Let's Get to Work, is happening September 28th from 8:30 to 2:30 p.m. at Tuskegee Airmen Global Academy. We need 3 Go team members there. I would love for all of us to be there. I know that's not, it's aspirational, but I am planning to be there. Dr. Bryant was there last year.
I'm there this year.
Okay, so that's 2.
Already done.
That's 2. So if you're interested, that came out in our email, our Go Team email blast. I'd love to see as many of us there as possible. And maybe we can coordinate attending some of the sessions so that we get as much coverage around, because there are a lot of good sessions. You only get to go to a couple. And so maybe we can try to cover.
And there are 2-hour sessions. There are 2-hour sessions.
So you don't have,
no, the sessions last 2 hours apiece.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you don't have to stay the whole day. We need but they were actually really good, really informative, very engaging. They had a lot of good people from the district giving information that otherwise I would not have had access to. So I encourage you, if you have the time, to block it out and come join us. Any other announcements?
Can you just send that information out to us again, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
8th graders this year, this is a new thing with the district. They are, and it's happening at multiple grade levels from my understanding, but 8th grade in the middle school space, they are all doing a hearing and vision screening. If you don't want your child to participate, please complete the opt-out documentation. And we're going, because we have to do almost 400 students, we need that information sooner rather than later. 6th grade is going to the Chattahoochee River project for their STEAM-based, school-based field trip, and they are also going to the cultural experience field trip, which is to the College Football Hall of Fame. And they're doing both of those next month. So excited about that. And I would my wonder is, could part of the next meeting, since it's in person, could we dedicate some of that time to do the work session and part of that business meeting?
Got it. And if there are other things that folks want on the agenda, just shoot them to me. I try to build them from the notes that I take during the meetings here. That I hear people say things that they're interested in engaging. All right, good people. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Could I report out on the Midtown CAP meeting, please?
It is not on our agenda and we are over time. Is it okay if you report out at the next one? Oh, okay. I will drop it on the agenda for next time. And I apologize about that, Miss Algeria. We ran over.
Sorry, I pressed mute and camera at the same time. That's fine.
Thank you.
I don't think we have another one coming up between now and the next meeting. Am I right, Ms. Elderi?
We don't know the meeting dates yet, so I assumed, but.
And the next meeting date for us is October what?
It is October 8th, and that is in person in the media center from 4:45 to 6:15. Allegedly.
I just want to put out there that October 8th is also vertical team meeting, just to you, Hollis. But I'll be splitting myself in half.
Okay. Don't split yourself in half.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn. Who? All right. All those in favor? Thank you, guys. Sorry we ran long. Have a good evening.